Good afternoon from Shazy, New York. Bob Vennon. What's going on here? And today our subject is old tools. Behind me you'll see all kinds of old tools, and the tool master himself, just to my right here, Melvin Mac McWhinnie. We call you Mac, I guess, over many. You call you Mac or Melvin?
Mostly Mac.
Mostly Mac, all right. And we're in Shazy, and we're at the E.C. McWhinnie and Son Inc. And this is McWhinnie sitting over here, too. We're going to see her in a minute there. Esther's just on the other side. And, Mac, thank you for agreeing to talk with us here. We've been wanting to do this for about a year. Last winter, you were in Florida. You do that every year?
We're hoping to.
You're hoping to, huh? When do you get out? After Christmas?
Well, we've got reservations made for... We leave here on the 15th of January. And if everything works out and the doctors all say I can go, well, we'll go down around the 15th.
Very good. Well, we usually like to start off, although people know you, there are a lot of them out there who are watching who don't know your background a little bit. Tell us a little bit about Mel McWhinnie. You were born in Shazy?
No.
Oh.
I came here when I was 2 years old, and I've lived here all the rest of my life. I've lived in on this one street now for 66 years. And I've lived in 3 houses. My parents' house, and when we were first married, we had an apartment up the street, Sunnyside Cottage. And then we built across the street. But I've always told everybody for the last 66 years I could stand in one spot and see the whole 3 places I've lived.
There's no significance you're being so close to Dr. Clark. You don't want to. You're not a hypochondriac or anything like that.
Not really. I hope I'm not.
All right. You said 2 years old. Where'd you come from?
Canada.
Oh, you're Canadian.
Yeah, my father.
And that's name is Scotch, obviously, huh?
Scotch-Irish.
Yep. And your father was from Canada?
Yep.
And your grandfather from Scotland himself?
Do
you know which family came over?
My grandfather on the McWhinnie side, and my grandfather on my mother's side both came from. One came from Scotland, one came from Ireland.
Okay, well, that's a good combination,
yeah,
eh?
All mixed up.
All right. So they came over. He went to school at Shazy.
Yeah.
Right here at the.
Yeah, I started school in Shazy. We went to school there for 12 years, and then I went down took a course in building construction at Delhi.
Oh, yes, I'm familiar with Delhi.
And I was there for 2 years, but I was drafted right at the end of my year because I didn't volunteer, so they drafted me.
Oh, they drafted you.
And I was in the service for 3 years in the European theater.
You know, the Hulberts from Plattsburgh, the plumbing people, they were from Delhi.
They were?
Yeah, both of those boys were from Delhi, New York. I used to travel when I was with Dun & Bradstreet, and I was in that area of Delhi, and I was very familiar with Delhi. And so then you came back. In the meantime, your father had started this business when?
My father came over here and started to work for the Miner Foundation, Mr. Miner at that time. And then Mr. Miner died in 1930, and they cut everything way back. Excuse me, that.
All right, we'll take a break. Be right back. We got customers.
No, we got to...
Okay, we're back, and you were saying that your father came here for the Miner farm, right?
He worked at the Miner farm until after Mr. Miner died. And then they had some cutbacks, and they were going down. And they offered him a job to stay there, but he was going to have to work at laborer's wages. So he left, and he went on his own. And he did carpenter work, and then right after the Depression at that time, things were pretty tough. But he was always had work, but he didn't always do just as follow his own trade. He had to do other things. He had never painted or anything like that before, but if he was on a job, he'd do the painting and all. So he always kept busy. And then when we were in high school, he started doing more building and like that. And I worked with him, and my brother worked with him. And then when we went in the service, he held back again for a few years. And then we came back. I went into business with him, and we worked together all of our lives. Okay,
now you said that he would have had to do a laborer's wage up there. So he was a carpenter?
Oh, yes.
He was specialist at he built some of those buildings out there?
No, he was. He worked in the carpenter shop most of the time. He was a cabinet maker.
Okay. What did they do with the cabinets? For themselves?
Oh, no, but in the cabinet shop, they make everything from windows and doors and screens and what have you, you know. I mean, everything it needs.
Yeah. Now, you mentioned a brother. How many were in your family?
I have one sister who was 10 years older than I am.
Oh, she's going to love that when you say that. Is she from the area?
No.
No, okay. She won't know.
And I had a brother that was 2.5 years younger. but he got killed. He was discharged on a Friday, and he was killed in an automobile accident up on the Rata Road the following day.
Safe in the service, huh? Was he?
No, he was well.
He was wounded. Huh?
He didn't have any use of one arm.
Yeah. So you both, when you said we went in the service, so you both went in the service.
Yeah.
And he never did any carpet. Well, he didn't get a chance when he came back.
He worked a little while after when he was in high school. That's all.
Shazy School changed a lot since then?
No, I guess so.
Huh?
I guess
You were in the old school, and who was your principal?
Mrs. Inglis most of the time.
Was she?
Yeah.
Is that right?
I guess all the time.
Yeah. What year did you graduate?
1940.
All right, 40. My God, you just celebrated your 50th, huh? Didn't they have a celebration? I did see a picture in the paper on that.
Yes, we had a big party at our house.
Okay, at your house.
Oh, yeah.
Great. Okay.
Yeah.
And so your dad, when did he physically come here, right in this building?
Oh, well, this building wasn't here. We just built this.
You built it
Oh, yes.
with your dad when your dad was living?
When we first started out, we were working out it, just going around different jobs and all like that. And then we built a shop out here. We got a little woodworking shop. We built that first, and then we did some speculative building. We built 8 or 9 houses, I guess, on speculation. And I kept always wanting to get into the retail lumber business. So we decided, I guess it was in 52 or 53, we started in that. And then we built this building, but we've added on to it on both sides.
So when a man comes in here like myself, and I don't really know what I want, and I start to draw, things like that, you probably know what I'm talking about because you've done building.
Well, I can try.
You can try what I wanted. All right. Now, your son came in after a while,
yes.
right? And you have one child?
I got one daughter and one son.
One daughter and a son, and your son, Jim,
Yep.
is in the business with you. He's the one we see here a lot, too. I hope he's not out because he don't want to be on camera.
I don't know where he went.
We'll find him.
He was here a minute ago.
We'll find him before we leave here. Okay, so now your father, when did you lose your dad? How long ago?
1964.
Oh, so it's been 27 years that you've been by yourself. And your partner here has been with you here in the store, too?
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
And Esther, you are from, you're right in the window there maybe, but you are from Shazy originally? What was your maiden name?
LeBear. Homer LeBear.
All right, of course. Yes, we know the LeBears. And they were king and queen at the Shazy, weren't they?
Oh, yeah.
My dad.
Dad and mom. And their daughter had a likely experience this past July, didn't they? You were king and queen. It came as a nice surprise. Did you know that before the day?
No, we had some inklings, and so Esther said she wasn't going to go.
Oh,
But we went there anyway.
yeah, it was very nice.
Oh, yeah, we were very pleased.
Yes, I came. I wasn't there long, but I went in and I saw you sitting over there with the crowns on. I asked who it was before I saw you, and they said there, and I said, where are they? And then they were over there, and you have a nice celebration. It's a very nice operation you have out there.
Lions Club do a very nice
Don't
job.
they do a good job? We were saying Bucket, and there's 2 or 3 West. Dick West, Bucket, and I hope I don't leave anybody out.
Well, I think all the Lions Club are very civic-minded
they certainly are.
organizations.
They do this winter carnival you have that, here in Shazy. Terrific. Well, all right, now we know a little bit about the family, and one thing I want to mention, Esther, is that a number of years that you spent in that church. You're in your church playing the organ. How many years?
I played 40 years in the Presbyterian Church. And I thought it was time I retired.
That's terrific. Yeah, well, there was a big article in the paper. I remember I saw half a page, wasn't it?
They were very complimentary.
Well, that's very nice. That's very, very much to be appreciated. You're still active in your church, even though you're not in the.
Well, she substitutes once in a while.
Yeah.
Played a couple Sundays ago.
Yeah. Feel good to get back?
I enjoy playing the organ, but I enjoy playing for myself than for the public. I think that's a good way of putting it.
Okay.
I enjoy playing. Just sit down and play. It's fun.
So Shazy's been good to both of you people, and you've been here. Well, you were born probably in Shazy, right? You were born in Shazy. And he came. He was a Johnny come lately at 2 years old.
Yeah, taught here.
Okay. I have to say there came a time when you started to not do some carpentry work, so you put your tools away. And you started hanging them on the wall. Is that what happened here?
Well, I never used these too much. We went out for dinner one night, and there was wherever we were, they had a plane, maybe something like that, maybe a little shorter. And they drilled a hole in it, and they put a lamp in it, and made it had an elongated shade. And so that was on a Saturday night, and on Sunday, I come over, and my father's tool chest was upstairs over there in the molding building. So I went up, and I brought down that plane. I was going to fix one up, but when I was there, I brought a handful of other stuff down. I set it on the shelf over there, and the first thing on Monday morning, people started coming in talking about these antique tools. So I thought if they're that interested, I better get interested. So then I started to collect them. I brought my father's, what he had, and it's been surprising the number of people that have come in and given me, they have one tool at home. One that they had. They said, we never see it, never use it, out in the garage or down in the basement. And then I started buying them and going around different places and auctions, or people would call me up and I'd go and started buying them and collecting them.
Now, today, the planes that you use, I'm sure that most of you people out there who use tools know that today it's a metal plane.
Yeah.
They're metal, and you push it along to smooth off a board or an edge of a board to take it down, make it smaller. Or I guess you don't use it to make it smoother, do you?
Well, you can
It's
smooth up when you're...
And at that time, though, it was all done on a piece of wood, and they put... Can you take one of those down and show us how that's put together, maybe?
There's all different types of planes. These bigger
Take
planes...
Take a small one or one
Now
that you have. There you go.
Is a molding plane. And you see the profile of the molding?
Yep, you can see that on the...
And these planes were made. Now this particular one, if you can imagine yourself pushing this along a board, it's not going to be easy.
And cutting as you go, right? There's a lot of resistance.
A hole through here where they used to put a dowel with a string on it, a rope. And the apprentice would pull it as they worked this along the board, because it was too much of a cut when you're cutting that much wood.
Yeah, there's an idea, you see, and when you get finished this board that you're doing, it will be the reverse of this.
Yep.
You know. Now you see that it's higher on the edge.
Well, that's a guide.
That's the guide for the, and then you could cut that portion off afterward, right, or whatever. Now, this is made out of a hardwood.
Oh yes.
And how old would something like this be? Would you
I
say?
would say this was back in the late 1700s, early 1800s.
Okay, don't go away with it yet. Just a second here. Now that is quite heavy, and this is. Can you take this out? Does that come out?
Yep.
Here, this would come out. Show us how.
I don't know. Yeah.
Now look at this. How this piece of wood here. That's all been cut out and not broken. You know, that's very easy to break. This hasn't been out of here in a long time.
No,
but what we're talking about, we can show you here. This is a
Knife.
the knife, and it's sharpened on the bottom, and it sticks out. It's shaped like this, and you can adjust it in or out when they've been used, and then you can take a deep cut or a narrow cut, and you do that a lot of times.
Oh yes. And this just this wedges in to hold them. They're all made with a wedge.
And you just tap that in there, and it's nice. It's inside. Now, there's no marks on this as far as being who made it. It wasn't commercial. Was that a commercial?
I doubt it. I doubt it. I think if it was commercial, they wouldn't have put a knot in there.
Okay, right. How? What age would you say that would be?
That must have been around the 1800s.
1800, so before 19. All right. Now that's a specialty plane. That's
right in the late part.
okay. It was where?
Right in the late 1800s.
Okay. Now that's what there is a special. The regular flat one is just to take the edge of a board down to make it narrower.
This is just a plain, like they call this a jack plane here.
Okay. Now this is sticking out maybe a 32nd or a 64th,
Yeah.
and when you come along, it just takes a little shaving right off.
But every time when you saw a board, you can't put it up unless you plane the edges off it because you got the saw cuts in it. So you do that, and for fitting doors and so forth.
But there was no handle here to put your other hand?
No.
Where would you hold it, like
Just
this?
like that, big enough block.
It's heavy, and they're collectible. They're not worth a lot of money, but they're collectible. They're hard to find. They're getting hard to find, aren't they?
Oh yeah, it's a good ones.
Oh, there's a small.
That
it's
one
got
there
a,
would be the same type, but see, it was a half.
It's got a bevel, just a little rounding. See, so that would take a molding, a concave molding. It would make an indent, not a. It would look just the opposite of this. In other words, when you do work with it.
Now you take one like this, that would make like a tongue and groove board. That would put the tongue on it.
By going out, it takes off both sides of the board and leaves the middle to where there's no knife, and that would leave that little, as he said, the tongue that would fit into a board just the opposite, for tongue and groove.
Mm-hmm.
And they had an awful lot of this on here says, maybe that says McWhinnie. What does that say?
No, there's nothing there.
Nothing?
No.
Okay.
There's a stamp on here, but I don't know what it is.
There's one there too. Somebody's name?
Yeah. M.V. Schutz.
Schutz.
Schutz. S-U-T-T-S.
Okay, now that is a family from the Line Mountain up in that area. There's some Schutz still up in that area. So now you got an awful lot of planes, and they all had a different purpose. The longer they were, the better you had
To straighten something.
to straighten it out, because you would just take the dip out, keep taking, right? All right, now what about this little right in the end right here? Is that
That's a block plane, same as the nowadays you'd have a small block plane, metal one. And that was a small one there.
That's just to take off if your board is a little high one spot. But when you do this, you could come up with another one, right? Because you don't have anything to guide.
You got to have a longer plane to straighten something.
Yeah. So if a person who was a carpenter like your dad, and well, first of all, I'll get back. You said the apprentice would pull that with a string. What's an apprentice, and how would you?
When somebody's trying to learn a trade, at that time, people didn't just buy their tools and go out and say they were a carpenter. They had to work for years.
For an established carpenter?
And for very little money, because they were learning. And at that time, I think that was one of the things, and the apprenticeships were going on. Of course, they're still apprenticed. I mean, you still have an apprentice, but things were so much, wages were so cheap, so that they could afford to take time to teach somebody what they were doing and why they were doing it.
You know, when my wife's grandfather, Israel Manette, brought a lot of stuff here over the year, and I offered one time, I said, I'd love to go work with him for nothing, no money at all, just to learn what was in that head, so that later on I would know what to do. You know, we can all do things, but we don't always start in the right end of the room.
You don't know why you're doing it.
That's another thing. Exactly. You know, even just carrying bricks up for a mason, you learn what he's doing, you see what he's doing. Now those over there are those for narrow boards?
These are molding planes. This is my father's set through here. And now for an example, this is a plane that they made window sash with. You see, this knife would cut the groove for let the glass in. This would put the rib up where the glass would go against, and this would put the molding on the other side.
All in one operation?
Yeah. My father used that a lot.
That's when he used to make your own windows?
Well, before we got set up where we could do it.
And now this is brass.
See, this here, this plane is made in two pieces. There was different thickness of window sash.
So you could make a thicker window.
So if you wanted to make a heavier window, they just made a wedge, a shim to go in there, and then it would be tightened up against it, and that would change the width of it. But there's quite a few window sash around town. I think they're still existing too, that this plane made.
Now that all goes in there. Look at that, tightens right up. And this are your two separate blades up here.
Got two knives.
Knives go down, and they just sharpen the edges up here.
Yep. Well, you had to keep them sharp.
Yeah, I imagine you did. And now, apparently, then you're telling me you needed a different one for every kind of different thing you wanted to make.
They were all different. I mean, depending on what you were cutting. Now that would just making you wanted to round off the edge of a board.
Yep. And you see this, as you can probably see here, so that the piece of wood would be just the opposite. The wood would have a curve on it because of this groove here that you were cutting. And you can adjust it to take a little bit off, or you don't want to take off too much.
When this would be put in there, this would have to be adjusted, and this went in to hold it wherever you wanted to put it, you know?
Yeah.
And then not there.
You could put with the...
And you'd have to
adjust it to get the right depth.
Get this, pulled it back to the right one. They generally took a hammer and just hit it one crack on there, tightened it up.
All right. Let me ask you. We got a board. We don't have a board. That's all right. We have a board. This is a board. All right. We got a long, big board. Can I plane from either direction, or should I?
You better go where the grain of the wood, or you won't get a very smooth job.
Okay. All right. So you got to go with the right. Otherwise, it's going to dig and break off. Right. And now people should wonder about the grains on wood, and that's what you have to know about. All right.
This one here, particular one, was Peter Mackay and Company, Glasgow, Scotland.
Okay, so that was a purchased one, and that was made in Scotland. So that was one of your dad's?
Yeah.
Now, do you know when you bought these, you have to buy the whole set, or could you buy individual ones? Huh?
And people took and made these planes over to suit what they needed them for a lot of times, too.
So you would have one this wide, and you could have one a little wider for this, doing the same thing, right? The same shape. There. Okay. These do exactly the same thing, but for a different width of whatever you're making. And
this was one that my father made over. When you put two, like when you make a window sash, there's moldings going down. When you put a mortise and tenon joint on a window, and you've got to bring the molding up together so it would fit, they call it coping the molding. So he made this one to cope the molding. This cuts just the reverse
of
this profile there. It cuts just the reverse so that when they were cut out, it would go together and fit up tight.
Yep. You're talking here individuals. You had craftsmen then, right? How long was your dad in the carpentry, doing carpentry work?
Oh,
Cabinet making, so to speak.
I guess about 60 years.
All right. What's the difference when we use the expression cabinet maker or carpenter?
Well, I mean, a lot of carpenters can be cabinet makers, but most cabinet makers are ones that work in a woodworking shop and like
do
that.
Finer work, maybe
work
they don't just necessarily make cabinets, but they do make windows and do different things,
all
right?
types of shop work.
I'll give you the example of Frank Manette, my uncle, was great. He loved to frame. He loved to do the basic work when it went quick, but he didn't like to do the finish work. Did your Uncle Frank? That was Henry Grimshaw that did that. And Henry Grimshaw did an awful lot of cabinets and shelves. And
Frank would rather paint.
You'd rather paint or put doors. He was very good at putting up the doors. Yeah. All right.
And, so there's all different types. Now they have what they call a horned rabbet plane.
I wanted to ask you because that's got a crazy. That must have be a reason for that curve in there. Your blade is missing.
The blade's gone, I guess.
The blade is
but
gone.
That was just something to hold on to.
All right.
Blades around here someplace.
And that was to hang on to as you.
And you can see this.
Okay, here's one here.
But they were just what they called a horned rabbet plane.
What's rabbit mean?
Cutting
a groove,
like a cutout, not a groove, but a half out of the edge of a board or something.
All right.
Like that.
Okay, that's rabbiting, and that was what you'd use to do these.
Yeah.
That's probably another homemade job here.
Oh, I don't know. I think a lot of them are manufactured in.
If you look at that one right over your head, it's got the big crack in it. Can you see that, Calvin? Is that just from weathered? That way with the big crack, or is that made that way?
Okay.
No, just to your right. Right that same right there, yeah.
Just split open.
It's split because of changing of the weather.
Now this one here.
These are old.
Made in Albany.
Yep, Albany, New York.
I got a lot of them made in Ohio.
Now this one's a little bit different. It has a little metal plate on the bottom. I haven't seen too many of those. But there's two knives rather, and one has got a groove in it and one does not. And it does just one job. Now, is there a list, say, that you'd know when you got them all?
Oh, no.
No such thing, right?
I don't think so.
There's not a set as such.
No.
Now, how many would there be in a set that your father, said you had your father's set? All those were one
this
set?
Come over to here, but I just found one of his down here.
Uh-huh.
But, I would say... Oh, there's probably about 30 of them there was in his set.
Uh-huh.
In his set.
And you keep adding. People still bring them in.
Oh,
You
yeah.
go out looking?
No.
No, you don't. No,
No, I don't like to spend the money they want for it now. They think they're worth.
I was told you like to spend money. Or am I thinking of the other part of the family?
You're thinking of my wife.
Oh, I knew it was one of you anyway. I knew there was one of you.
Well,
Right.
most of your dads are from Glasgow.
Yeah, those were the ones.
He's one that has that
Yeah,
one on there.
yeah.
And then they started to make planes like we've got nowadays with the
Metal top.
metal, and then they just had a wood base on them. Why? I don't know. I mean, why they had to... why
Probably
they
because of
couldn't...
adjustments like this.
Yeah, but why they couldn't have just a metal base like they got the rest of the plane? I don't know why.
Probably hadn't thought about it. Now here's a Stanley Bailey, number 22.
Yeah.
And they're numbered, right? And then there's I know my neighbor, Clark Herdick, is into old planes, I think into this type, and he's into various planes. He's a collector of planes, likes wooden tools. Do you restrict it to wooden tools?
No.
Not really, huh?
But I mean, they're the ones that I think seem to show what people have come through in the past and what they've, the way so many of them were made.
Okay. Let's give, we're doing the show today with Sam Castine on the camera, and we're going to give him a chance to rest his shoulder for a couple of minutes. We'll be right back, and thank you very much for watching Hometown Cable every night, every day, and particularly on Sunday nights when it's What's Going On Here. It's Bob Venn, Mel McWhinnie, and Esther sitting down at the other side. Mr. and Mrs. McWhinnie. Be right back to you from the hamlet of Shazy, New York. It's not a village, remember, it's a hamlet. They have a post office, it's a hamlet. Nice people in Shazy, New York, and we'll come back with them just right back. Okay, we're going on from the plains to, of course, you've got to know how long and how wide you want things to work with, and you've got some unusual measuring instruments here.
Well, I think that these were primarily used on a bench. They weren't used to and they carry in their pocket, but I mean they would lie flat on a bench to mark and all that. But you can notice the brass work that is on.
Yes.
These. This is all brass.
This is brass, and there's brass on each edge, and wood in the middle, and it's about 1/8 of an inch thick. And I have a couple of these, and you'll see they fold over like this, and then the other side folds like that. There's a little tiny nail right here that will go into a little groove, and then be very careful, and you now have a little 4-part ruler. This was about 2 feet?
That one there's 2 foot.
2 feet.
Now,
Now
this one here, I suppose you'd carry it in your pocket like you would a small tape.
Yeah. Again, you notice the brass. Now this took a cabinet maker, so to speak, to work on a thing like this. All little pins along the side here, and this is all brass on this side. Again, it opened this way, and don't let your children play with them because I've had some broken ones at home because they open them the wrong way, see? And there's your rule. And it got a lot of brass in each end, so it can't get worn or anything else. You'll have accurate measurements. Fold in, fold down.
Now, I suppose that it was the same back in those days that they are now. They're always wanting to make something that would attract people's attention. This is a 12-inch one, brass-plated, had a level in one end of it. It has, this piece came out, which would make a square.
I've never seen one of those.
And
Yep.
so, I mean, I suppose it's the same as nowadays.
Sure is.
They're always looking
Yep.
for something a little extra.
Yep, a universal tool. This one's quite a bit thicker, you'll notice. This is probably 3/8 thick, and there's the level. It had a little level of the what do you call it then? The
vial.
The vial is gone, and this would help you to measure a levelness. You certainly would. This would be in the way.
Oh, no, I suppose it was just putting it down on something like that.
Oh, even like this.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you are. It gives you an idea. And that's all brass, and it needs.
It's the workmanship that you got to admire on something like those things.
Certainly, and remember, how long are we talking here? We're talking back in the 1800s?
I imagine it.
Way back, at least. Quite heavy.
They were used, I think, in the early 1900s by all means. I mean, they were still using them. But
Yeah. There's 2 little screws on top. That top would come off, and you could get another little vial to put in there. It can be replaced. And, of course, one of the big names, I don't know if it's the quality, but Stanley. Stanley is...
Stanley was way back.
way back, huh? All right, now we're getting into a little different. It has a special name to it.
This is what they call a froe, F-R-O-E.
Okay.
And it was primarily used to make shingles, clapboards, things of that nature. They would, I had a fellow come in here from out west where they talked about the old fellows used to sit up there and make hand split shakes. And he'd heard that I had a froe and he came in to see one. And they would take this froe and put it onto a block of wood.
A round block, right? Or
round or whatever they had.
Standing up.
Yeah. And they would hit it with a mallet on here and give it a little twist. And that would split them off. Of course, you had to have the right piece of wood. You had to have something that was straight grained, like in cedar or something without any big knots in it, or if you're going to split it like that. And they also talked about using this making clapboards. And I suppose after they split them off for a clapboard, they had to do some planing on them to true them up. But they could, it would just go down in here and hit them. And
that was usually done with a wooden mallet,
Yeah,
right?
wooden mallet.
So you did...
Wooden mallet or a beetle, they call it.
Here's one here. Here's a...
Yeah, but they generally had more of a club type.
What's a beetle? Oh, more or less like a...
Just a bark, a knurl of a tree, you know.
You just hit it like that.
And I always am quite interested in bit braces.
Now, for you people who use a hand drill and think that drill is everything, well, they didn't always have that motor behind you, you know. And this was also portable, right? And cordless.
Yes, it was portable and cordless, all right. This was given to me by Clifford LaPlante in Champlain. And it came from someone in Champlain, but I've forgotten his name. This was back in the 1700s. And this bit brace was made, there's a pin right here that would be knocked out.
That's
This
wood-
whole piece would come out. This was their
Yeah.
chuck.
Yeah.
It was just made so that this would go right into here,
Yeah.
but of course, as you'd twist it, it would bound to wear it.
So you could replace that.
You'd replace that.
Okay, let me just show you a couple of things here. First of all, it's square, and the end of this has a square.
Yeah.
And it's tapered. All right. We won't
This
put that back.
particular-
We'll find out what that's for in a minute. Now this turns, you see, so that when you turn this, and you're up like this, and you could make now. I would assume if you put this in here, there's a blade here all the way down.
Just like a pencil sharpener.
All right. And I would assume that that would be a lot of resistance on this,
Yeah.
right? And this was used for.
On making wagon wheels for the spoke that went into the felloe.
Now you hear all those new words, right? Now we know the spoke is the thing like on a bicycle that comes down to the center or the hub, and what the outside's called
The felloe.
is the felloe. I'd have called it the rim. See, the rim
The rim goes on
outside.
the outside of that.
Well, I was close. All right. So the fellow. All right. I heard that Esther has a very good fellow named Melvin.
Definitely.
Definitely.
After they got away from this type of a chuck, they went into one like this, was made out of metal, and they just had a set screw on it to tighten up against your bit.
Yep. Your bit went down inside of here.
You got some bits back there.
In other words, this is regular bits. Now we're talking, that would be that type of thing, but the bits, there's one back there that,
Well, they probably didn't have this type of a bit
But-
at that time either.
but
They
see,
had
that would go in, and then you could set this,
that would
and
tighten
then
up.
again, you would this moves, so you can turn the other very easily. Now what gets me on this one is why that this with the grain hasn't broken.
It must be if
That's got to be real good. You'd think that, with the grain
Yeah,
of the
yeah.
wood, that could break so easily. Nice old piece. Nice old piece.
And then the next chuck, or it might, I don't know which one came first, but this was the same type. It was split here with a set screw on it.
Okay, there was a piece. You see, it was the thing would open, and it was like a spring to it, and it would close as you tighten. This would close up, and that would hold also. This is called the bit, and this is called the bit brace or a bit brace.
This is one here that's got a bit in it.
This has got as a spinner again, and that's a little piece of wood, and that's got in it. Now that was. Did they have many of these? Now this is in here pretty permanently.
Yeah, well, that's too
Do
permanent for me.
Could they possibly have a different one for a
No,
different?
no.
Didn't make sense, huh?
No.
Nice old piece of turned wood here on the handle. And now here's a small miniature of this one with reinforced.
Now this was used primarily by coach makers and cabinet makers and all. This wasn't just the one they took out in the job. You see all the brass on here, and this chuck just had this piece that pushed in to hold the bit
Yep.
and release it.
This was on a spring, and when you push this in, it would come out to get it inside. You'll notice that this is all very fancy. This is also for strengthening because, as I told you, this could crack very easily. And apparently this did crack because this is broken right across here. So they have added a piece inside, and on the outside it don't belong there. And one of the places you'll notice it cracked was right where one of the screws had been originally. Right? And then there's a slight crack here because there's so much tension on this as you're turning. Nice piece. Now, I have never seen too many of these around that.
And I bought that over in New Hampshire. And when this was years ago.
Yep, real
And when
nice.
they told me the price, I never even asked them if they wanted any less or not. Because I wanted it.
Well, listen, when they want $1, you can't get much less than $1. Come on.
I paid quite a bit more than $1.
All right. Now, you'll notice that
I mean, I'm Scotch, but I have to pay once in a while.
Now, let me ask you, does your wife get over here and dust these off, or do you do that?
No. I hire help to do that.
They got to be put back in the same place, right?
Well, more or less.
Yeah, you got them pretty well in order here. All right. You took this down. Now, this is a very
That's what they
unusual
call
hammer.
a Cooper's adze. They used that when they were making barrels. They were making barrels with that.
Now, is this a knife right here? I mean, they could.
They used it both for hewing out like this and using this for a hammer.
Real short handle. You don't get.
Oh yeah, you don't want a long handle on for a cooper.
Okay.
This is what they call a sun plane.
Or a sun plane.
That, when they made wooden barrels, they cut around the top of the barrel so that the head would sit in. This was the guide to go around.
The little groove inside. Yes,
Yep.
yes. You'll notice that the top goes in and it's held in by a little. Yes, I know they have and that was used to cut the groove.
Yep.
All the way around.
Miss Seymour, remember Miss Seymour, Catherine Seymour? When we had
From where?
Down Shazy Landing here.
I don't think so.
She's in the nursing home now. But
Don't believe so.
in 1967 when they had their celebration, and we took some antique tools and all, and she brought this up and gave it to me, and said she'd rather have me have it than anybody else, and so she gave me that one.
Very nice. Very nice.
And then.
Of course, you talk about the book you were talking. Now, there is in a prominent place is Eric Sloan. If anybody who's into old things or old crude items should know Eric Sloan.
Yeah.
He's got about 5 or 6 books. They're very valuable books. I say valuable. You can't buy them. A used book is $10 to $20 for a used one. It's he's got early American tools of all kinds of.
I've got some other of Eric Sloan's books.
Yep.
Too.
Got nice books.
And well, now. This is something that I think an awful lot of people have been. This was made by Stanley. It's a plane, and it was patented in 1874. And you could tighten this up, and it would plane in a convex.
Now, for new people who don't use planes, or for the people that don't understand carpentry much, you'll notice that everything you've seen so far in a plane has been flat. The idea of a plane is to make it flat, correct?
Yep.
And there are times where you want to take something out of a board to do a certain thing. This is one of the reasons right here to make this around. But this, and it's adjustable from real flat to
and then it'll go the other way.
Goes the other way.
They were used a lot by coach makers when they were making buggies. And
Stop right there. You see?
That's flat.
You see, it's flat now. All right. This spring steel here, and this is all worked on like a. Now he's going to keep going, and it's going to go the other way. I've never seen one of those until I saw yours. You showed me that here one time when I thought we should do a show.
But I mean, there's different uses. I mean, I imagine how many round windows have we seen around the place?
Yeah, so that you'd have to kind of
to fit the window.
Yeah, take something off, and if it doesn't quite fit, then you make it just a little bit different angle.
And if you had to go the other way,
and here
on the frame, you could.
Here's what does the work right there. You see those teeth how they mesh, and they go from one to the other. And who made this, Stanley?
Yep.
This must be a very unusual type of plane, huh?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's unusual looking. I've never seen one like that. That now has got a date back.
You know,
and this is all metal.
What did they say? 17.
Yeah. Now you just put something back here without showing me. By God, you can't do that.
What's that?
I don't know, but maybe it was this.
Oh no, I was just going.
Oh,
sun plane.
All right.
I don't think those are in. We will get to showing what they used when they were making timber framed buildings, where they had a mortise and tenon joint
tell
together.
What you mean by mortise and tenon? Some people out there don't know what a mortise is.
Well, when they made, let me show.
All right, we'll take a break. Be right back. We got to get one of these things to show you this. Okay, we left to find mortise and tenon. We didn't really find one we could show you, but he's going to explain it to you here, first of all. In the meantime, he's got a very unusual apparatus here.
This is what they call a boring machine. There's a bit goes into here.
I got a friend that's a boring machine. Go ahead.
And so they take their square timbers.
All right.
They want to make a barn. Timber frame of the barn. They take their square timbers, and they would put them on, go right through here.
Let me let you get over here.
There's
do that so you can see.
I've got three.
Here.
I've got 4 of these machines.
This cord.
Yep.
Okay.
And they're different sizes and all. But the timber would go in there, and then the fellow would sit on this part here. This would be on top of the timber.
Okay.
He'd sit on top of the timber. He'd sit there.
So the timber's underneath here.
Underneath there, yeah.
All right.
And he would turn it like this.
With a drill in here.
And a drill. And that would go
Or a
down
bit.
with a bit, and it would go down and drill a series of holes. Probably they would have to make a mortise about that long, that there's a series of holes. And my father used to tell about how his uncle used to like to see how long he could stand, keep on drilling holes with one of these things before he got tired out. Now, you don't find that very often this day and age, he was going to get tired out working.
No.
But this was turned with both hands, going through hardwood.
Yeah.
So they made a series of holes, and then they took a chisel and they sliced down along the sides of the holes, which they called a slick, S-L-I-K, and went down through. But in the corners, to make them square, we had a corner chisel. This was set on there and driven down through there to square out the corner.
Okay, to give you an example, suppose we had a real big drill bit, and you made a hole this big, and another hole this big. You make 4 of them along here.
Yeah.
And, of course, you're going to have all the little corners around. And then he would take his chisel and
Slice them
right straight on down through so that this whole area right here would be gone. And within the corner, that would be used, you're saying, to right there, so that you have a nice clear cut.
You'd have to have a square corner to let your tenon go in.
Okay, so that's the mortise. Right?
That would make the mortise.
The mortise.
And the tenon, they would cut it with a saw and split it out so it would fit into that size.
Okay, so you'd have a board, let's say
8 by 8 plank.
8 by 8 plank, and you'd cut off 2 inches on each side, and you'd have a 4-inch by 6-inch or whatever, and that would slip into this to make the upright against the other, correct? Took a long time, and there were no nails used, and then sometimes they would drill a hole and put a peg in it, right?
Put a peg in there.
Well, just like you've got, here, there's a peg, so to speak. Well, that's a bolt that goes through. They put a peg to hold that in between.
Yep.
So mortise and tenon, that's important. All right, while we're in boring things, we're still into the boring items. Any other items here that would be of the boring type? Well, here's one here.
Well, that's an auger.
All right.
We've got a lot of augers around, but they're all... And
this is nothing more like a bit brace with it's only one size, of course, and you go down, and then you just keep turning. And this would be for big holes, usually, right?
Oh, yeah, for going through where it's an awkward place to get at or something like that, to use to bore, put the pegs in probably, and things like that.
And there are different sizes of these.
Oh, yeah, I got one of those over at the house, and must be that big around.
Yeah, that took some power to turn those, too.
And maybe when we were talking about the mortise and tenon, we could talk about the way they squared up a timber. And
okay, yeah, great, yes. That's right here.
That's a broad axe there. I got a lot of those around. This is another broad axe. A broad axe is flattened on one side and only got the bevel on the other.
Now that means on the blade. See, this is there's no V. It's
not like
straight.
a splitting axe.
Right.
You split wood, didn't you, Bob?
Yeah, do I split wood? Yes, I split wood. An axe has both sides.
And so this would be on a log. They would strike a line on it. They didn't swing this like splitting axe. They used it close down to it. This is a lighter one. Most of them are heavier, so they haven't got so hard. And you'd hit to the line all along there to cut it off to square up your timber.
From around, and you just keep going. Now,
a broad axe.
Okay, now that's a broad axe. Wait, this one is not.
That's a broad axe too.
Now, there's something unusual about a broad axe.
The handle.
The handle, right.
The handle is...
Can I take this one down here?
I don't know if that's...
This has a little, I think.
I don't know if it has or not.
It has a little.
The curve in the handle was to keep your hand away from the logs.
Yeah, so that, you see, that's not crooked by mistake. They wanted it was a crook in the actual handle would bend so that you didn't hit as you were cutting. And look at the size of that. You swing that for a few hours, and again, you see there's a bevel on. There's also a little very sharp piece of wood there. There's a bevel here, and this is absolutely square. Only on one side.
And then when they got through with their broad axe, they used what they call an adze. And the adze was used, and it was used in this manner, you know, to true up the beam, where all your slices of all the where the broad axe made slices like along there.
Right.
This took it off to true them right up.
Now, in many old houses or in logs, they will leave. You'll see the marks of
Yeah.
these,
Oh,
and they want those.
There'll be some marks left.
Yeah, they want those. It looks like there's various. It looks like it's.
I looked around. I don't see it. I got some other adze heads around here, and some of them had a spike on them, and they were what they call a shipwright's adze. They would drive the nails down with that spike so that they wouldn't be cutting them with the adze when they were true.
Oh, I see. Down below it. Yep. And it's flat here. Was that ever used for something?
Oh, a hammer.
It's like a hammer.
Yeah.
Was this on the floor here?
Well, I could pop it down.
Wherever you want to put it here. You hung it up there.
This was my father's.
That was your dad. Huh?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I got a lot of others, but there. And we were talking about these frame saws. They're
This here.
it's a frame or a fellow, F-E-L-L-O, and it would be used. A lot of coachmakers used them when they were making fancy cuts and all like that. And a lot of the gingerbread around the corners of a house or anything like that, they use those.
You don't have that in houses today, but you
No.
look at some of those houses in Champlain, some here in, all on the cornice at the top, you know, is that called the cornice?
Yeah.
And it really fast. Now here is the blade in the middle.
And this is another one here, that's the same thing.
All right, and they could have either thicker blades or thin ones.
Yeah. This was just used by a mason, a level for a mason. They had a saw cut here. They would put the string through there, put their plumb bob on the end of it, and line it up with the on here to see if it was plumb when they were going to laying up brick or anything like that.
Okay, these people out here, man, I don't know what you're just saying. Now, you're talking about got a string,
Yep.
and a plumb bob is like a
metal-
point, like a right,
Yep.
and it comes up and you hold it, and of course it tries to get perfectly square.
Yep.
And by using this in here, they could tell when it was square. I guess you're saying,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And this is, of course, is a
There was a violin.
there was a vial in there. And now, is there a reason why it was? Is that
No, I think it was
just worn?
worn off, I think. Maybe not worn altogether, maybe they just cut it like that.
Used for a long, long time.
Yeah.
It did a lot of masonry in this area,
It's
I
an
imagine.
old one. It's an old one.
Now this, of course, is also a work thing here. You know, I imagine people know what this is. This is a yoke for a human. This went over
Yep.
like this around your neck, and then you hung your pail of water or whatever, and it would pull most of the weight, and you'd steady it with your hand.
They call them sat.
Now here's another one up here. See?
This is a different one.
The different? Why are they different?
Oh no, this is made differently. This has got oarlocks on it. They used to carry these with these mountain boats from one stream to the other. They fit right into the oarlock on the boat.
All right. So you could just put it on your shoulder and walk with it. That went around your neck.
Yep.
The yoke. There's another. This is
Yep.
this is a crudely made, handmade yoke. That's probably a little more commercial.
Yeah.
Now, I took this down from somewhere. You did here. That's leather tongs there. Your shoulder can carry an awful lot more than your hands can.
Oh yes.
You know, you got your whole body behind it. All right, here's a couple more of the but shorter handles. You don't have to reach so far.
There's a set of trammel points. When you wanted to strike a circle. See, this was, of course, this stuff has been dried up so long.
Well, you know we're out far enough anyway. Okay, that would go up and down.
I would slide back and forth like that, and this would go in, and you'd want to make a circle.
This is in your middle. You
Yep.
use this for the middle.
Yep.
And then as you swung this, you make your circle here twice as wide as this, in other words.
Yep.
This is your center, and it would go 6 inches, and when you swung, you'd have a 12-inch circle.
Right.
And you could come all the way out to here. You'd probably have a 5-foot circle by the time you get out there.
We call those trammel points.
Trammel point. You probably don't have that on there enough to hold it.
This is a marking gauge. When you wanted to strike a line along a board to mark, this would run along the board. There'd be a point right here.
Yep, nail.
Come down through.
All right, so instead of saying you want to go in here 5 inches, for the length of the board, instead of measuring each end and put a straight edge, you'd put this along here, and as you run this through, this nail that's sticking out here would mark it for you up and on down. And they have small ones. Oh, here's what, I have one of these.
This one here has 2 points in it. This is when you were making a mortise again. We're talking about making the mortises. When you were making windows or mortise and tenon joints, you generally had this was adjusted from the end here. You made a 3/8 tenon, so you got to make a 3/8 mortise. So you would mark that out. Now, nowadays, of course, you say they use a mortising machine and do it.
Yep.
But this way here would be marked out, and they would cut it with a chisel.
Right, the same thing. This would run along the edge, and as you run along the edge, it would make 2 marks, and that's what you want to chisel out later.
And if you're just marking for the edge of a board, they'll just have 1 mark on it.
I've never seen one like this. All right, I've never even noticed this here. There's
That was
the
my
old.
father's.
Yep, this is the old one. Like now, this has a number. Well, no, that's
That's just for the guide. It's brass.
okay, and that's a brass turned thing there. Markers. Now there's a something a little bit more common. That's usually a rosewood. I've got some of those that are rosewood. Is that rosewood?
Yep.
Oh yeah, real nice.
Look at the inlays.
What you're talking about? Can you see those brass?
I don't think you can show
You
up.
probably can see. You'd be surprised when you can see that. The 4 inlays. Then on this side, it's all brass.
Yep.
And look at the width of this. Probably 2 inches exactly,
Yep.
or 2. Something is a reason for that too.
And this is nothing to do with carpenter work, but this is what they used when they grafted trees. This part here was sharp. You would cut the branch off on an angle. You would drive this into the balance of the where you're going to graft it and slide this piece into it. See, this made split the branch apart, and this cut it off.
There's a tool for everything. At least, and remember, this is back when they say that we're smarter now. Today it's all plastic, you know. These handles won't be left by many of these tools today, when 50 or 100 years from today.
Everybody's got a draw knife.
Oh, no, you try and find draw knives today. There are very few houses that have a draw knife, or we call it a draw shave.
Draw shave.
And this was...
And these were very common. This one here...
That's got a curve in it, huh?
Yeah. See, that's got a curved blade.
See how that's curved? Now you better explain, first of all, how this is used. Well, let's take off with the regular one first. Why do you use one of those?
Well, those are, Johnny, if you're going to
You've got a board here, right?
and you want to cut the edge of it down, you can peel it right down like this.
Or you could
along
go
there.
straight
Or
on.
you can go
that.
straight, but it's a little harder there.
Right.
You use a plane, but this would be on the edges.
Yep.
You know. And then when you got, if you were trying to do it where it was going to be a real fancy job, and it was smaller, you do a spoke shave.
Okay. Now, is this a type of a spoke shave?
No,
No?
that's a Cooper's draw knife.
To the same type of thing?
Yep.
But it's for Cooper's. All right. This is the
That's a spoke shave.
spoke shave. Now, we talking about like spokes for wheels and
Not
things?
necessarily.
Okay.
Anything you wanted to make round.
It was a
That was my father's.
That was your father.
Anything you wanted to make round. If you wanted to make a round pin, you could put it in the vise and just keep on going around.
Yep.
It takes a little bit off each
Right.
time.
But that's pretty well straight across.
Yep.
This one, on the other hand, see, is not. It's curved. Now, this you used to... was this for barrel making?
I
or-
think so. Yeah.
It must have been to make a big...
Yep.
Now, this one here is really... Now, it even got one on the other side. Does that mean that I guess you can push away from you? I don't know. If you got the strength to push away as well as come towards you, you're a good man, Charlie Brown.
And you see there's a spoke shave
It's curved some,
curved blade.
Right, now here's-
Everything, all these tools, there was a use for them, and they got them made for it.
You see? Now that would do the curved part.
In later years, they started to make the metal ones.
Okay, I have one of these. Now there's your blade. You see how it's curved in here? And you actually have two, I guess. You could actually... This is a double. This is for twins.
Yeah.
Making twin boards at the same time. Well, you're in a hurry. We're going to fix his desk. Look what we done to his desk.
this is going back to a plane, but you see how they had this here would loosen up, and you put it against your board to run against the edge of the board to put that groove in
Okay, so you could make a that's a mortise. You could call it a groove or a mortise, either one.
No,
Groove?
a mortise would just be a small place to let a tongue in.
Oh, all right. So this could be released and slip out wider,
Yep.
and you could go out to a wider board. But yet the same size blade.
Yeah.
You want it further in other words. Now it looks kind of complicated. This is all hand. Remember, this is all. We're talking 100 years here, probably.
Oh, yes, yeah.
At least 100.
There was what they called a laughing hatchet.
A what?
Laughing. When they put on wood lath, of course, even when they were putting on they used to put a board on, split it. Maybe you've ever been in an old place where they've had hand split lath on the walls. But in most cases, they're 4-foot lath, and they cut them. This here is very thin, very sharp. You can cut them, and this is what they drove them on. As my father said, there used to be an awful lot of sore thumbs.
That was to do what?
That's to nail the lath.
You use that to put a nail in?
You'd use that to drive the nails in the lath.
Any idea why it would be serrated like that?
Wouldn't slip off the nail because they were doing piecework most of the time. And he said they used to fill their mouth full of nails and spit them out.
Yeah. Now, when you're talking about lath, for some people that maybe not know what we're talking about, in the older homes, you didn't have sheetrock.
No.
E.C. McWhinnie and Sons weren't available then with their sheetrock. So they had the 2x4s up, and then they would put boards about an inch to an inch and a half wide across the area, and then they would make their mix for their plaster, and the boards would be about this far apart, and they'd be across, and then they would fill in, and then they'd build out your walls, ceilings, and then there are many homes being taken down. They've taken down the plaster. Plaster cracks. It's a nice old tool. Nice old tool. I thought it was used for meat. It was for meat tenderizer. See that? Only would tenderize your thumb if you got your thumb, eh?
You sure would. I guess you know what this is.
I guess I don't.
Cleaning out a horse's hoof?
Well, I got only one question. Of course, you remember when we speak, we wanted to do a story on, and we're still going to do that, on Mr. Grew in Perry's Mills. And I guess, of course, the horse's foot came up between your legs, right?
Yeah.
And you kind of held it like this, and this would be to clean out his hoof. Because a horse's hoofs are kind of concave, and I've never seen. I've had a small one I used to use to clean out our horses.
You know what that one's for?
You're embarrassing me now here.
That's what they...
I think it's part of, it looks like the gas pedal for an old Ford Model A.
That's what they fix the horse. That's what the horse's teeth.
That was the file for the teeth.
What do they call it?
Make them look younger.
Yeah, it was to float
Oh,
their
yeah?
teeth.
Well, yeah, no. How'd you get into the doctor's bit all of a sudden here?
Just as long as it's old.
Okay.
Doesn't cost too much.
Now that's awfully long.
Yeah.
That you can reach way down inside of inside of his mouth.
These are what
or
people
stand far away so he don't kick you.
These are what people tell me. I know nothing about horses.
Well, if I'd have came first, I'd have given you a story about that one. Now this is a mallet.
That's just
A heavy mallet. Now see, this didn't injure any metal that you'd hit with it. And this has seen a lot of work. And it's heavy, and you drive
they would
that throw he had before. You know, this would hit
this was probably factory made. See the way?
Yep, got a groove around here.
And it might have been made out of licum vitae, which is a very, very hard, dense wood. Will stand all kinds of abuse.
It's nearly like it's petrified here. Yeah. And you'll see these that are all disheveled as you see them. It's probably been turned down once, probably been cut off some. Old mallet. Don't see those around.
Of course, you never hit. You use a wooden mallet. That's just, I think I went on to a loom.
Okay, now, here, I thought it was one of these.
No, those are just a wooden clamp.
And very handy to show us what now this, you got to know what you're doing, see? It's to clamp boards together to glue or whatever, see? It would get thicker, and one of them is loose. It isn't really in there. It just sits in a groove.
Yeah.
The other one does the work.
You have to turn this way. These haven't been used for a long time.
Yeah, and they would close, and it would tighten, Today they got that new one. You grab it.
Yeah.
You got those today? You have any of those here?
No.
They got that new one. You clamp quick, and it shows you how quick you can clamp. But they still don't have the lure and the beauty of these older ones. You see, there's one other one up there too.
Yeah.
I guess I'm off the track here.
Stillards.
Oh yes.
But this one here weighed up to, I forget what size that weight was. That was a big one. Got a lot of small ones.
Okay, now this I know a little bit about. This would hang from a hook on the ceiling, and then whatever you wanted to weigh, you'd hook on one of. I beg your pardon, I'm reversed here. This way, huh? You can go. This is where, and you can hang with this one or this one, and it gives a different center of gravity. And then by adjusting this, and you'd hang your pail here, whatever you had, and you'd adjust this, and when it balanced even, it would tell you how much weight you had. It worked really well, right? Yeah.
Guess they will. They used to use that.
Here's another one here.
Raise their kids.
Yeah. Another one right here. I've got 2 or 3 of
I got
those.
some in the other room too.
Wait, what do we got? What do we got here? This is not a tool. It's made out of wood. What is this? Shazy, Chamber of Commerce, Citizen of the Year, Melvin McWhinnie. What year was that?
73.
Oh, it says 73 right here. Look at it. I'm a great trophy man. Look, it says 73. And that was given by the Chamber of Commerce in Shazy for many. You belong to Chamber?
Oh, yes.
You Lions Club?
No, never belonged to Lions Club.
What else you belong to in town here? Anything else? The Chamber, you're very active.
Yep. Oh, I've been.
You had the Citizen of the Year this year for the local, for the Northern Tier Chamber. Bucket Trombley.
Oh, yeah,
Bucket Trombley was on hometown cable. And here's
This is kind of interesting. This is in 1900, June 17th, 1900. Fred Purdy, up in Altona. And here was 10 2x8s, 13, rough spruce, $2.60.
for 10 of them.
That's for 10 of them.
26 cents a piece.
26 cents a piece.
Now, there's a place called Purdy's Mills,
Yeah,
isn't there?
That's where it came from.
That where it came from, huh? Purdy's Mill. Also dealer in cord and wood, stove wood and charcoal, dimension timber, lath, shingles, and pickets. Spruce, hemlock, and hardwood lumber.
Dave Miller gave me that.
That's nice. That's a nice old piece. And if you've got something out there that you don't, in a drawer somewhere, you had something to do with tools, I'm sure, if you want to donate it, come see Mel. Mel would be pleased to have it, and people will appreciate it, seeing it on the board here. When I come in, I always glance over. Once in a while, I'll see something I haven't seen before.
Those are a lot of the square nails that people used to use with different heads on them. They'd have a rose head and a flat head and like that. You know, the rose head would be exposed nails so that they, for appearance. And
They say that when you find these in your house, you know it's real old. That used to be, but now they're making square nails now, so you gotta be careful. They even have a way to make them rusty, so that you think they're much older. But that must have been a salesman set, or did you make this up?
no, Armand Dupree made that up and gave it to me.
That's nice. That's very nice. Yeah. Another example. We've seen one of these.
Yeah.
We've seen that. We've seen. Now this is a.
That's just, it looks like,
It looks like a bucksaw,
like a small bucksaw that somebody had made up.
but probably for lumber rather than for wood,
Yeah,
huh?
yeah.
It cut. All right.
That's a window, a bit brace to go around the corner. Dirty.
This. Can you show us, give us a bit brace here? Just one of some kind. Just give. Okay.
I don't think they'll go into it very well.
Well, let's just give you an idea. Now, generally, you know, you got a bit and you drill straight in. With this one, you get into a corner and there's no way you can turn your hand if you're up close to a corner.
Mm-hmm.
So this, I guess, you could angle this, and by turning this here, it would, you could go off at a right angle. You go right into a corner, like here, where you couldn't turn it, an inch from the corner, and by, say this is a wall right here, you go into here, and by turning this out here, you drill a hole in the opposite direction. You can buy them today. There's today they're different than this, but you can use them for drills. And it's a drill when you're drilling a lot of holes. Very unusual piece.
Yep.
Here's your other. Now all I gotta do is know where I got
I'll
it.
take care of it. I just
Put
leave
them back later.
Oh, I love this. It's like being home. Leave my stuff anywhere I want. Well, my wife knows I don't do that. All right. Now this.
That's a Cooper's. That's the same thing for a horse's
Okay.
hoof again. This is a Cooper's adze again.
Yes.
Same as this other one here.
Okay. Now show us that wooden box you have over there with your bits in. That's very, very nice old piece.
That's just got a series of wood bits.
Okay. Now this would keep your, your wood bits, different sizes, and then when you were finished,
Got your brass again.
yep, you see your brass around the edges, brass hinges, and a little brass hook here that came around the side to hold this closed. And you open it up, and this was carried in your toolbox. Remember, back then, tell us about toolboxes. You don't have an old wooden toolbox around here, do you?
Well, I've got two big tool chests, and I have another one, but I can't.
Okay,
keep
what do you mean
everything.
by a tool chest? Tell us what that is.
Oh, they're about that long.
Yeah?
Stand about 30 inches high.
You're
20
pretty like an old clothes chest,
Yeah.
right?
And they have partitions in there in the back for the saws. And they have generally 2 rows of drawers that slide back and forth. And
Kept
they
all your
keep
man
everything
kept his
in
tools. Because now a real good tool maker, I shouldn't say tool maker, a carpenter or a, what's the word I want? Cabinet maker would never put his tools down the way we did here. There's no way he wants this nice edge on another piece of metal, right?
No.
Or your chisels either. They got to be kept,
Oh, yes.
and they put them on. They wrap something around the end so they wouldn't get nicked. And sharpening. Are you good at sharpening tools? I'm terrible at sharpening tools. And sharpening tools
I try.
is a real art. And it's hard to get work done if you don't know if they're not all right.
This was to cut leather in a circle.
This was this,
That was the point.
That was
And
the point.
This was the knife.
and you had a.
Put it in the Brit brace, and you turn it right around in your leather and cut it right through it. I don't know what that is. I forgot.
Oh, you don't want to tell. You didn't want me to get this. We don't know what this one is. Now, could this be a gauge of some
It's
kind?
something for wire, I think, but I'm not sure. I don't know where I got that.
All right, if anybody out there knows what this is, or you lost it, it's right here. Right here at we're at the E.C. McWhinnie and Son Lumber Hardware in Shazy, New York. What's the name of this road we're on?
Fisk Road.
Fisk Road. We should change that to McWhinnie because this man has been here for all except 2 years of his life. Hasn't left this road right here.
This was an old scraper. Put a blade in there, and that was used by a cooper also.
To take out. Yep.
And this is where they used to put a knife in there. The knife is gone, and this was adjustable to cut it back and forth. If there were, they talked about like drawer bottoms, where they made out of something very thin.
Yes.
They could set the edges like that and cut them down to, like, score them through with a knife rather than
Okay.
sawing them.
We were talking about a cooper. A cooper's a person that worked with barrels mostly, right?
Yep.
Made wooden barrels, and it was known as a cooper. And I don't know if that's why we call it Cooperstown down in New York. But that was probably because the name was Cooper
There
himself.
was a lot of barrels made up on the Clark Street at Tom Lewis's place up there. He was a cooper.
Made barrels. Now, the name of the family name of Cooper could have been because at one time the guy was a cooper. It's
Yep.
like plumber, right? Carpenter. Those are all because of their professions, not because basically. You could have been, your name could have been Carpenter. See, just as well, who knows?
No, I'm Scotch and Irish. I couldn't be Capunchiate.
No, but because,
That's just.
yeah, tell us what that is. People might see what that is.
You think? You know what it is?
Yeah, it's. I got to think of the name of it too.
Calipers.
Calipers. It's an outside caliper. It's to check if you were making something and you want to check ever so often that you want it exact width, or to measure between 2 points. Caliper, and it moves in and out. And then they have another kind that point the opposite way. That's called an inside cart. Okay, we'll take a break. There's a phone call here at the E.C. McWhinnie and Sons in Shazy, New York. We'll be right back with what's going on here.
I guess I'm getting.
We were talking about a boring mill, and you saw this, and he was explaining how you sat on this right here, and it would drill holes, as you see right here. Now there's 2 holes, and then by using a chisel, you would chisel out the 2 holes into the rectangular hole right here. That would give you an idea of how that worked. Then I also came across one here that, second hit, I came across I guess I lost it. Mortise and tendon. Here we go. Here's a mortise and tendon. It's a little bit different, but here you cut out a little chunk on the side of a board, or a 2x4 or a rafter, and then this one here is cut so that this would fit down into there to hold it, and you didn't really need any nails. It was wedged in. That's a mortise and a tendon. And this is a 2-angled striking chisel that you would use to chisel out there. And these are some of the other things. Now this is, I told you, they have this probably in the library if you're looking to find out information about old tools and how they were used and what they look like and the ingenuity of these people. They made things by hand many times to do what they wanted it to do. And this is probably in the library. Eric Sloan.
A lot of people have heard about these gimlet bits.
I've got some of these. I didn't know what that was.
Gimlet. G-I-M-B-L-E-T.
Now this does the same thing as another.
Yeah.
And it has the blades on the side, and this would drill a hole without bringing the dirt. Now the dirt, the shaving still came out through this little root. The idea of drilling a hole, you know, and you can't just keep without getting rid of the wood, and that's why they're circular the way they are. We'll show you here, for instance, all of this contraption down here has nothing to do at all with cutting the hole.
Just to bring the shavings out.
It's to keep the hole clean. The cutting edge is right here in the top, maybe a 1/4 of an inch at the top. That's the only thing that does the cutting. The rest of it is to bring the wood out. And this little screw on the top, the thing, is to bring it down, and that's what pulls it into the wood. It's not all the pressure, a little bit of pressure, but that kind of keeps drawing it in. And this is kept sharp, and it brings this right out. And these are in different sizes.
I've got a lot of little things around, but I guess I've come to pretty near the end unless I'm duplicating things. That was a shoemaker's hammer.
Mr. Howard on the side here says Howard, and this was to all his little tacks. Now shoemakers and people who do upholstery all keep the tacks in their mouth. And they got a magnetic hammer for when you do upholstering. We like to get a holster sometimes. And he just does this, and they keep coming. You got a mouthful of tacks, and you just keep. Doesn't have to touch them.
This was also used to cut leather, and of course this is a.
There's the blade here, or blades on the end, I guess, huh? Yeah, and then you go down and do what you want.
This is a typical leather punch.
Yep. Remember, harness, in the old days, this is a harness-type punch, and this is one size, and you just flip this. I got a couple of these, and I know my daughter Sue always said, Dad, can we borrow your punch? Because they want to put a new hole in the belt. Whenever you're putting a new hole in the belt, that means only one thing. You see, you're not using the other hole. You're putting on a little bit of weight. Now, Dad here has put a few holes in his belt. They come in handy, and that's why I have one.
There's a little different type of a coping saw. Most coping saws are just a one-size blade, but this was adjustable to make it to different size blades.
So if you wear out your blade to break off the end, you can still use it, maybe.
I don't know. You have to have a hook on it, I guess.
Now, coping saw, what does that mean to tell us? That's what you...
Well, it's to cut small circles around.
Cut a circle around and to make scroll work.
Yep.
You know? Usually you drill a hole. Many times you don't have to. Drill a hole, take the blade out, put the blade up through, then you can cut.
Yep.
You cut the width of this anyway. You can't... But it's usually a cut scroll work for along a window or something else. That's a coping saw.
I don't know
And,
about much else.
all right, just the general, then we got general small. Let's just see your block.
There's a block and tackle.
There's
A pulley for a block and
pulley. Getting collectible today, wooden pulleys, you know, they're getting tough. And this is where they usually had a couple of them. You get mechanical advantage coming through here, and you could, this is where it would hook, and you could bring your steer up when you were butchering or whatever. They usually had 2 of them, and it gives you about 8 times the mechanical advantage. Just another, and there's some more different size of these marking gauges.
Oh, I say, I got a lot of duplications.
Okay,
too.
that up on the side there, that's more for a farmer than anything else.
That's a corn.
Yeah, that's
corn
the old
sickle.
corn sickle used to use to cut, you know.
That one over there is too.
There's another one over there we cut by hand when you're making rows and so forth, or picking up. And there's another couple more boring tools over there. This is a very short square, probably used more than most of the others. Very handy, small. Again, rosewood in most cases with a brass on either side.
This was used for grain, though.
Oh, yeah, that was work. Now, if you've ever been in the old Shazy school, I think up over the auditorium, over the stage, it showed people cutting grain, and they had things like this in their hand. Huh?
In the auditorium
Okay,
again.
I think you'll see some of these up there. That's work right there, people. And then that's flat on the bottom here, and then this is beveled, and you would kind of cut it, and then you'd grab it, right? Pull it up and pile it up. Another old tool. Well, Esther, you got your coat on. Does that mean that you're leaving us?
I babysit. I get my grand.
Oh, well, wait a minute. You got a picture of a grand? I saw a picture here somewhere. Where? What is that picture? Just a minute. You mean we have E.C. McWhinnie and son and son and son now?
And son and son and son.
Yeah, I just saw a picture on top here.
Just had it here. I got so much stuff on top
He got
now.
buried. He got buried here, didn't he?
He doesn't very often.
Oh,
right here.
Yeah, okay. He got knocked down here. All right. Let's just see that here. Gonna go babysitting. What's his name?
Todd Pratt.
All right, Todd Pratt. McWhinnie.
No, he's on Pratt.
I'm sorry. Your daughter. I beg your pardon.
This is our daughter's.
Okay.
We have one
Todd
son,
Pratt.
one daughter, and one grandchild.
Okay. So Todd Pratt, and he lives here in Shazy?
Yes.
All right. And how old is he now?
He's just 7.
Okay.
Thanksgiving Day.
Going to school. Oh, yeah. Well, Thanksgiving, that was a blessing, wasn't it? Way back, was he born on Thanksgiving or just after fall that time?
No, it just fell this year.
It happens every few.
Well, you see, now my wife and I wouldn't tell this on TV because, my mic is not here. I'd be get over to where the mic is. It sounds a little bit better, but we have that at home. My wife and I, we were married on Easter Sunday, April the 5th, 19-something. All right. Now, what happened is, I always like to celebrate mine on Easter Sunday because that's when we got married. But she wants to celebrate it on the 5th, so we celebrate on different days. Now, he wasn't born on Thanksgiving, so I don't know what to say with him. But we were married on Easter Sunday because it was Easter Sunday. And so mine is on Easter Sunday.
Every 6 years it will be on Thanksgiving or something like that.
Yeah, okay. Well, thank you very much. I didn't get you on TV very much
fine.
here. It's all right with you?
It's been very interesting. I've enjoyed listening to you two.
You must have heard him say some of these things before,
There's
huh?
a few things I've heard before. That's right.
I'll tell you. What kind of hobbies do you have? You collect anything?
Antiques.
Antiques? Well, yeah, that's one of them over there, huh? No, but furniture,
No,
glass, nothing like that?
Flow blue.
Flow blue. Oh, my wife's into flow blue. Not a lot of it, but she's...
I have some nice pieces that were family pieces.
You don't use them, right? You can't use them. That's the trouble. They'll last forever. You don't use them.
She collected salts for a long time.
I don't anymore.
Yeah.
No. I have the individual little salt, the glass salt.
Uh-huh.
I don't. No, I like.
So when you go on a trip, you can always look for something that you don't have, right? That's what's nice about,
It's very interesting to look at.
Yes. If someone gave you a whole collection of one of everything, it takes the fun out of it. Fun is finding, locating. You go away and you say, look what I got on my trip. It's part of finding. It's not fun of just having it. It's getting it.
That's right.
All right. Thank you very much for
You're
talking with me.
entirely welcome,
Okay.
Lucy.
Right. Bye. This is McWhinnie and Esther, I should say. All right. We're back here, and we've covered about. Let's just talk a little bit more then now about E.C. McWhinnie and Son as a business. You handle over here, Sam. You can see you have your hardware, right?
Well, we've got builder's hardware and a complete line of lumber and pressure-treated lumber and paneling and ceiling tile, Benjamin Moore paints.
Okay. And windows?
Windows, doors.
Yeah. Roofing?
Roofing, siding.
And you have...
Vinyl siding.
And you don't just see it all here. You have that in the back,
Yes,
right?
yes.
And you have... It's all undercover. You have a lot of lumber, and you have... today, they're getting into newer and newer things all the time, right?
Change all the time.
Yeah. How wide of an area do you cover, Mac?
Service, you mean?
Yeah.
Well, we don't.
Regularly, customers.
Generally just Rouse's Point, Champlain, Shazy. We go into Plattsburgh some, but
Uh-huh.
we don't go much farther.
So you've been here, you're coming close, a couple of years. You'll be here for your 40th
Yeah.
anniversary, right? You
Yeah.
said 53 or so?
Yeah.
Or was that when you took over?
That's when we started the retail.
The act retail business as such. Now you, at one time, off here to the back, you had a shop.
Yeah.
Do you still have that
Oh,
shop?
yeah. Mhm.
What do you do in your shop?
Just mostly ripping now or planing boards or something like that. We got a planer and a saw. Our
For other people?
Oh yeah. Well, if somebody wants, they buy a piece of plywood and they want it cut up, or
Yeah.
need a board ripped.
Well-
but we don't do it as a
Okay.
business.
Let's take an actual situation. I'm coming down here with my car. I want to buy a piece of 4x8 plywood, and I want to cut it into 4/11 and 9/16 or whatever it is, shelves. And I don't have the facility for that. I
Oh,
can't get
we'll-
it home, for one. You do deliver?
Oh, we'll deliver, but we'll also cut it for you. if
You
you
cut
want
it right
to.
here, right? There's an added charge, a little bit for that?
No, most of the time not.
Okay, well, yeah, that's what
Unless
you
there's a
that's
lot of-
hometown business you're talking about right
Unless
here.
there's a lot of cutting. I mean, just
Yes,
a
right.
ripping or
Yeah.
something like that. But I couldn't say that. Sometimes people want things all cut up so they can just nail them together.
Yes,
Well,
well, yeah,
it takes more labor then.
Yes,
But
yes. How many employees do you have?
we just got the Esther, myself, Jim, and Herbie now.
Herbie? Okay, now Herbie's
had-
been here for a number of years, huh?
Yeah, 11 or 12.
11 or 12 years.
We had another man, but he is gone now. So
Okay, yeah.
we
And-
generally have 3 extra ones.
Uh-huh. And is it a year-round business pretty well?
Well, it slows down in the wintertime
Slows
very
down,
much.
huh? Yeah.
Yes.
But you still have to be here
Oh,
in
you
case
gotta
somebody
be-
calls,
You got to
right?
be here, and you got to have your same stock, whether it's in
Yeah.
the wintertime or in
Yeah.
summer.
But today, with the supply, do you have to have as much on hand, or can you get it pretty quick?
Oh, you can get it very quick.
Of course, people don't want to wait, do they? They want it yesterday,
They
most
don't-
cases,
They don't
you know?
want to wait, and of course, the bigger quantity or better price most of the time.
Uh-huh. Yeah. All right, so that you got your, a lot of Stanley stuff I see back here. You wallpaper? You handle wallpaper?
Well, we're phasing out of it.
Getting out of the wallpaper, right? But panelings you have. I
Oh,
see
yes,
you have
yep.
various panelings over there, and you got samples there I guess you can get quickly.
Oh, yes. Well, we've got a lot of paneling in stock, but most of the ones we got in the big rack over there are in
Mhm.
stock.
Well, now, all right. Well, tell me just for a minute here about Shazy, New York. What's happening to Shazy, New York over
Well,
the years?
I don't know what's happening, but I mean, it's the only place I want to live.
Yes. All right. Well, Shazy's nice. It's always been, for a while, if I can say it, Main Street was starting to show
Yeah.
its age, but it's coming back now.
It's
Got a
coming-
nice new bridge.
Yeah, it's coming back, and maybe we haven't got everything to offer like some places have, but we've got a lot of nice people.
I know you got nice people. Way back years ago, I lived in Moores, and they said, Moores, there was very few restaurants. They didn't have any gin mills, nothing there. They said, I said, but wait a minute. I lived there 2 years, and the best 2 years I ever had in school for teachers were in Moores Central School, including Paul Vogan, one of the best teachers, if not the best I ever had in my life, including all of college. Moores were nice people, and they had a nice educational system.
I think that's why we like small towns.
I'm sure we do. Everybody, you see you on the street, say, hi, Mac, how are you?
And we know everybody.
I really ask you, I'm talking something personal here. You got your hand hidden. Put your hand out here with mine. And we got something in
Oh,
common.
yes, yes.
Now, see, I got one in my middle finger, and you got this finger. Is that had to do with the business?
Oh, yes.
You want to talk about that at all? You want to talk about
just
that?
cut off.
Well,
Oh, that was 40-some-odd years ago. 40
well,
years ago.
so was mine. Mine was more than that, as a matter of fact. I think I was just a child. I was fooling around
Well, I
with
was
somebody
working, but
It's on your right hand. You're right-handed?
Yep.
You've learned to write with your way over to the other side,
I
huh?
don't think anything about it.
Did you ever notice a child when you're out and a child's looking at your hand? They just think
Yeah.
it's different. But that's one of the. I remember one time I had Victor West cut me some molding years ago, some oak molding, and I think while he was doing it, he took the end of his finger off. All right. Anything else, Mac? You want to tell us while we're here? Where's that son of yours?
I don't know if he's in here now or not.
You ought to stop in and say hello to us here, Jim.
Jim, they're waiting for you.
Well, gosh, yes. Come over here, Jim. We'll take a break. Be right back. You're watching What's Going On Here, and we'll be right back. You wonder who does the work around here. Well, these are the people that do the work right here. This is Jim, right? Jim, how long you been with Dad working here?
I graduated from college, or got out of college in '74, and I've been here steady ever since.
Yeah?
Yeah.
So you've learned a lot from Dad, right?
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember your grandfather? He died in '64. No, you wouldn't, huh?
I remember him some
A little
when,
bit,
when he
it's
worked
hard.
when he worked in the shop and made windows.
You
and
did
stuff.
remember a little
Yeah.
bit there, huh? And then here's that other employee right here. This is Herbie right here, right, Herbie? What's the
Yeah.
last name, Herbie?
Hebert?
Yeah, see, Herbie Hebert. Now, don't that go good together, right? Now, I just found out that you got quite a family, size-wise. How many kids? Children?
Only 6.
6. 2 of them been working across the street from my house on Church Street,
Yeah.
working in Art's house there, huh?
Yep.
I didn't realize that they were your sons until one day I was reading an old article of paper and I saw his name. I said, my God. So you've been here, you said, about 12 years?
Be 11 this coming August.
11 this coming year.
Faithful Herbie.
Yeah. Well, he's always got a smile on his face, I'll say that. You know what, when you see a smile on someone's face, 2 things can happen. He's very happy or he doesn't know what's going on. One or the other, right?
I don't know what's going on, Bob.
I'm not going to ask. See, but you got to know what's going on because that's the name of this program. What's going on here? See? All right. So, what is? Look at this guy here. He's loaded for writing orders. Look, he said, "I'll write orders in any color you want." See that right here? You were on one of these Shazy soccer teams here years back. Were you a soccer
I was on
player?
the undefeated team of 70.
I noticed you didn't answer that just yes or no. You got the undefeated team of 1970. Pretty proud about that, huh?
Oh yeah.
Shazy's very proud. I see Shazy's doing very well now in basketball, like starting again. They got a good team. They beat Elizabethtown last night, 10 or 12 points. I don't know if that the boys, right? For years, they didn't have the
No,
strongest basketball team.
They got a better team now than they used to. That's
Yeah,
for
and
sure.
the boys and girls both. They're both doing very, very well. In soccer, they just, it just goes on and on. So let me just think here. So when you need 2 people on a truck to go out and deliver something, does he go with you?
No,
No?
myself.
You go by yourself and get the guy you're going to help you unload it.
Well,
huh?
normally we have another man, but we're short one right now.
Okay. All right. And so what can you tell me about Dad's tool? Are you interested in tools?
I'm interested in them, but I guess I got a lot to learn about 'em.
Well, you ought to have. You listen to him, and you of course listen. It's hard to learn them all at one time, but there's an awful lot. Imagine the number of boards and the number of hours those tools have worked over the years. Just think if you could be where those tools have been when you think of the
Just think of the craftsmen that have used them.
Yes. Today you don't have craftsmen like that. You can't afford to get scroll work on a house. You take a house in Champlain like Mrs. Kaufman's, the corner of Butternut and Oak Street, a Cornish on the top, and McManus's house across the street. You couldn't afford to have someone do that today. Couldn't afford.
Gotta have more production.
Yeah. They that's with all labor back then. Okay, let me think. I'm trying to think of something for you, Jim, here. And first of all, if this is your desk, you got troubles. Look what they did with your things down
this is
there.
my desk,
Oh, that's
yeah.
your desk over here. That's where the working papers are, huh? All right. What changes have you noticed? You're newer than Dad. What changes have you noticed in building since you've been here? We're talking, what, 15, more than that. God, it's 20 years you've been graduated from high
It'll
school?
be 20 years next year from high school. Yeah.
Is
Goes
that
fast.
right? Good. What have you noticed change in business that you can think of that's striking? I'm thinking of an awful lot more stock, different things you got to have than ever before.
There's a lot more treated stuff today.
Treated, huh?
Pressure treated
Yep.
for like a lot more decks.
Yep. But that's
That
good, right?
nature,
You don't.
yeah.
A lot of wood is rotting out there, but there's an awful lot of decks being put up where porches used to be, even. All right. Anything else you can think
Just
of here?
from 2x4 to 2x6 wall.
Uh-huh.
Most of them.
Yeah, well, that's
2x6,
insulation
yeah.
and better
Yeah,
insulation
and
today.
then like you answered another one there, a lot thicker and heavier insulation.
Yeah, what about this new insulation? Do you handle that new aluminum on both sides, an inch thick? What's-
Urethane.
Urethane.
And it's soft, you mean?
No,
It's a
No, there's
rigid-
another one and it's about 60 inches wide, and it
Cork got.
it-
yeah, it's a
it's still,
Flex-X.
I guess so, and it's very, very, and it's supposed to have all kinds of R value. I don't know.
Reflective insulation.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, Jim, I'm out of. I've covered the business a little bit. Do you have to go to buy stock at all? Do you ever go anywhere to buy stock, or does your salesman come here and you buy it from them, or do you make orders? How does it work in lumber?
Well, a lot of them, the salesmen come in and order directly from them, or I use the phone and.
Yeah. Do you have hardware shows? Do you have lumber shows you ever go to? Like in some other
I
businesses?
went last year. Dad and I went last year. It was last year to Burlington to GP show.
Uh-huh. And that was Georgia Pacific would
Yeah.
put on a show of some of their products.
Yeah, no, was it 3-4 years ago? Herbie and I went to a show for Anderson down at the Holiday Inn.
With the
where
windows,
Howard
yeah.
Johnson's are,
Yeah.
To update on information on
Yeah.
Anderson windows.
Yeah, the way things are changing, you gotta have a course,
Oh, yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You gotta keep up
You've
with
noticed the changes over the years, Herb?
it. Oh, yes.
Were you ever carpenter?
No, sir.
How'd your sons get started? You
On their own, just like
you
I
say,
did
go get
later."
lumber here from McWhinnie, right?
Just play around a little bit and learn it.
Yeah. Yeah, Wade, I never knew Wade. I've known Wade for several years. Never knew. He said Hebert. Never dawned on me was your son.
Yep.
Never.
Tim Martin.
Yep, Martin, I'm over there working now. All right, well, we're at E.C. McWhinnie with Jim and Melvin and then Herbie Hebert. He's not a McWhinnie, it's his Hebert right here. We've been here for the last hour and a half. We've been talking, first of all, about the business a little bit. And, of course, our main purpose was the tools, the old antique tools. Had been collected for about how many years, did you say?
Oh, 27, 30 years, something like
You wish
that.
you'd have started before that?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. When they were only half that price, right?
Well, I hope it's been a little bit informative.
It certainly has, and I'm sure that,
Yeah.
no, I'm not sure that the ladies are going to enjoy this as much as the men are, but again, we'd like to find some other shows that maybe ladies, a lot of our shows aren't always geared to ladies. A travel show is good for everybody, but ladies are starting to do the work now with the tools
Oh,
too.
we've got a lot of women that are
Yeah.
real capable.
Very
people.
capable with building,
I
huh?
used to think they weren't to do that kind of
Yeah.
work, but they're very capable.
Yeah, you know, I think that one of Mahoney, Mr. Mahoney, Jerry Mahoney, or Mahoney over in Altona, one of his daughters is building her own house.
Is that right?
Over near Altona, between their Irona and yeah, she's out there doing the building. Well, anyway, things have changed, and we've seen some tools, and we want to thank you very much for taking the time
Well,
and then letting us come in and talk about your tools.
I've enjoyed it, and I hope that other people will too.
Thank you very much.
Yep.
You've been watching What's Going On Here. I'm Bob Venn, and this is Mel McWhinnie, Mac to me, and we've been here, and we hope you enjoy our show every Sunday night and watch Hometown Cable every day, 1:15, 4:30, 8 o'clock, midnight, 8 the following morning. We really want you to see it. You got 5 chances to watch What's Going On Here. Sam Castine with the camera, doing a lot of camera work, and he's here with me today doing our show called What's Going On Here. Bob Venn saying good night.